I love space sims. The open sandbox universe has always been my favorite type of game. Letting the player choose their own path and affect an active galaxy is something that I've missed of late. Hell, I keep finding myself going back to games like X3, Albion Prelude, or Freelancer for my fix. Games, I might add, that are well over 7 years old now at the time of writing this. One of the few franchises that nailed the feeling of being a space vagabond that could travel the stars any way they wish was the X series. A franchise I watched grow from a single-seat fighter set out to change the universe in the original, to building up your own galactic empire with full manufacturing support and a network of space stations and supply ships traveling the galaxy at my command, and of course, fleet combat. This has been the X series growing over time. A few years ago, I made a similar video to this one, excited for Egosoft's new game, X Rebirth. With an upgraded graphics engine, a sleek new interface, and the ability to walk around stations, I was excited. Sadly, X Rebirth launched with some major flaws. Because it was, well, broken out of the box and needed a lot of patching, the game changed from an open, massive universe that was the X3 series to a collection of smaller sectors. The ability to walk around your ship was great, but the interiors and NPCs all felt the same. Boring. The biggest issue I had was the fact that the entire game, I could only fly one single ship. Sure, it echoed the gameplay of the very first game, but the fact that every item, every ship, every station was buyable, flyable, or capturable in X3 Albion Prelude was part of the charm. It made exploration fun and worthwhile. X Rebirth just didn't feel as fun or as open. Now, 5 years later, we're on the cusp of X4 Foundations, a proper numbered sequel to the original franchise. So what is Egosoft doing to bring the franchise back in line with why I fell in love with it in the first place? Let's hit up my top 10 reasons why I think this might be the one to do it. Number 10, and honestly, probably one of the more important ones on this list, fly every ship. This has to be the core of the X series, at least X3 and Albion Prelude. Every time you jump into a sector in those titles, exploring meant finding new things, ships, stations, empires that could be used by the player. It gave context to the player's actions. Oh, this sector has jump drives for sale? This section has some interesting hostiles, but good resources? Maybe I can jump my combat group in here and clean them out and claim the sector as my new remote base of operations. The choice was yours, and you could choose from anything in the game. You want a micro-carrier frigate that can hold 4 fighters in its bay in the early game? Go and buy one and outfit it. Want a massive battleship with heavy cannons? A missile cruiser for spamming doom at your enemies? There were so many options, and I'm so happy that this feature has returned. This is a make or break for an X game for me. It's just not an X series without variety. Number 9, walking around ship interiors. With all of these new ships comes, shockingly, a new feature. You can walk around inside them. All of them, apparently. Want to walk around the bridge of your massive command carrier? Well, go for it. You can give orders to the ship from your big windows while you look out at the battle. That's a first. How about kick the helmsman out of his chair and jump right in and actually fly the ship? Apparently, that's all possible now. And we still fly even the smallest single fighters. Walking around in Rebirth was a big disappointment, but this sounds like a new level of gameplay / scale that we expect from a proper sequel. Number 8, station improvements. The feature that burned me, cut me deep in X Rebirth so many years ago. In theory, it sounded great, walking around on stations, exploring the nooks and crannies of massive, detailed structures, but it wasn't all that interesting in reality. Most of the stations looked the same from the inside. What you found was more or less useless, and everything was instanced. Landing your ship at a station and getting out to look around the interior space looked the exact same as the rest of Rebirth. In X4, you can go zero-G spacewalks. Get out of your ship, walk over to another ship that you own at a dock, and jump in. Not to mention the customizable space stations, which I'm not sure how that's gonna work. But just like that, from one ship to the other, walking around the interiors with no load screens. No randomly loading into a generic interior, and hopefully every interior is different. It's gonna be interesting to see how this pans out. Number 7, ship station construction. You can build any kind of factory, space station, shipyard as a modular, customizable system using their 3D builder. They even brought back the player HQs, which was a chain of missions that ended with a player-crafted base at the end of the X3 campaign. Number 6, mining, resource gathering is back. You can outfit your ship and head off into the belts, make money selling the ore, upgrade your ship, buy new ships and have them mined for you. Resource gathering is back as just one more way to play. Of course, you can just ignore this and go straight to trading the finished products. You can use the ore to manufacture goods yourself, or maybe ammunition. Trade the ore for straight profit. Best thing about the X series is picking up how you wanted to play, and I'm happy to see this bottom, the economy mechanic, is back. Number 5, the jump gates are back. So many people hated the highway system in X Rebirth, and I'm so happy to see that the classic jump gates are back. They used to separate individual sectors. Using a gate would take you to the next sector, each having its own music and skybox and lore attached to it. It also made the different empires feel vastly different. Seeing the massive blue oceans of the Boron homeworld and that music that would play that just feels so good for an aquatic species, and its living green ships that's floating around the sector. Or the mass asteroid belts of the Talati Prophet sectors. I hope the return of Stargates once again gives us that epic feeling of exploration. Also, and here's the crazy thing, there's not gonna be any loading screens, not even through the gates. This is where you always did all of your loading in the original games. Getting in and out of ships and stations, no loading screens. But even gates? How does that work? It sounds awesome, but I am so confused by it. Number 4, timeline. This title takes place years after the past games. And this is a big draw for many out there. After having explored the galaxy in the original X Beyond the Frontier all the way through X3 Albion Prelude, we've watched events unfold and change and shape this universe. Now we get to see what happens to the different races, like the religious Paranid and their massive rounded battleship designs that I liked so much from the past games. And there's some major changes here. They mentioned in one of the trailers, the Paranid have actually split into 2 factions, are now warring with each other. So what happened with the Talati and the Argon Federation? Now we get to find out. Number 3, dynamic economy is back and the new UI. Now the X series has always been based much of its gameplay on the dynamic economy. The knowledge that the trader you see docking next to you at some space station, some far off sector, dropping off goods like missiles or ore or energy cells, or maybe picking up them because the price is just right, gave the universe this feeling of being alive. It allows for the blockading of systems to crush an economic competitor or to take advantage of a lack of resources in a certain sector. Oh, there's no shield generation construction facilities in this one sector or any of the surrounding ones? I should put one there and I can make a profit. How you use your fleet and traders and giant freighters all mattered because of the dynamic economy. Whatever is at your command, you can use it with or against the economy. This is a return to the best parts of the X series. One of the worst parts of the X series has always been the UI, and apparently they've remade it. If I ever had a complaint about X title, it was that god-awful UI and how you ordered your ships around. Fighter wings, fleets, traders, whatever. It had to go through 6 or 7 different menus, mostly using the keyboard and ignoring the mouse. But now they've reworked it. Even so far as going to show orders being given on a map. Hopefully, and please, Egosoft, do this, give us those basic real-time strategy controls for our fleets of ships in sectors. That would be amazeballs. Number 2, dynamic factions. Something that would later be added into X3 AP by talented mod authors was a series of dynamic faction mods. Most being fairly simple affairs, these mods quickly became some of my favorites. Factions would start declaring wars on each other, taking territory from each other. It was like a self-generated story that could actually affect and sway the universe. Some of these mods even allowed the player to claim some sectors. Now X4 is supposed to have some kind of dynamic factions that shift and change based on character and universe events. I'm not sure exactly what they're planning on here with this, but I hope it's something along the lines of some of the mods, the classic ones, like the race-specific menus mod back in the day for X3. Number 1, though, is the focus on the sandbox. They've always advertised these games as trade, fight, explore, and now with treasures, artifacts, resources, derelicts, spacewalking, you can even upgrade your spacesuit to set plant explosives in combat. You can go out and find mining spots. Exploration is there, and the world seems to be alive. They seem to be focusing on the things that made the X franchise interesting to begin with. I'm stupidly hyped for customizing my own player space station, building up my fleet, and taking the fight to the enemy of the X universe that's constantly changing and moving. Will X4 be the new sandbox space sim that I'm playing almost a decade later? I hope so. Hopefully modding will be supported and tools will be made available for the community, as that can make or break a game's longevity for me personally. But we'll have to see what happens with the release. Egosoft, please nail this one. I'm ready for a new space sandbox, and I'm pretty sure we all are. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think is going to be the most interesting game mechanic that they're adding to this, and what is your biggest concern with it? What do you think is going to be something that they might mess up or they might bring from Rebirth that could take away from the game that we hope this is going to be? My name's Captain Shaq. Thanks for watching.